In this video, we're just going to quickly show you how to adjust the gears on the bike, keeping things simple, something you can do on the side of the road, or if you notice that your bike's not exactly working right, a few simple steps and we can get you rolling a little bit easier. So with adjusting the gears on the bike, you're going to have barrel adjusters on the bike. A lot of road bikes have the barrel adjusters just in line here. So these little guys are going to adjust the shifting here. So what you're going to notice is, it's a little bit on the tight side. There you go. So what you're going to notice is, so this guy, when I'm tightening that, you're going to notice that this is going to extend out. What that is doing is it's forcing the rear derailleur into the bigger rings. Also, it's increasing the cable tension. I'll go through increasing and decreasing the cable tension with you on the rear derailleur. But with this barrel adjuster, you will have to use this one for the front derailleur, just because the front derailleur doesn't have a barrel adjuster on the actual derailleur itself. This is the barrel adjuster on the rear derailleur. When I loosen this off to the left, this is increasing the cable tension, and that's forcing the rear derailleur towards the inside of the wheel here. When it comes to adjusting the rear derailleur, when you are adjusting the barrel adjuster, especially on the rear, you're just trying to center the rear derailleur on the actual cog you want to be in here. So on the rear derailleur, you're going to have an H and an L. What that stands for is the high limit and then the low limit. Also, there's one little bolt right there, that's the B limit. It's one of the bolts you don't necessarily have to adjust, just because when the rear derailleur is properly adjusted right off the bat, you don't really have to adjust it. The only time you ever do have to adjust it is for when you are replacing the rear cassette with something a little bit bigger or smaller, just in reference to the larger kind of cogs right here. So this guy being the high limit screw here, what you're going to notice is when I adjust this screw, you're going to notice that the rear derailleur is going to start moving. You can see it moving a little bit inward here. So what that does is, so what the high limit does is it prevents the chain from going too far this way and then falling onto the frame here. Why that is important is, without that high limit screw, it would just completely fall off onto your frame. You do want to protect your frame and just make sure everything works out there. So one thing I'm going to check is just to see where that high limit screw is. So I'm just going to push this forward here and then just drop this down here. One thing you're going to notice is it hasn't fallen back into that gear that it was originally in. So that's telling me that I have too much high limit screw. So I'm just going to loosen this off. You can see it moving inward. What I want to do is I just want to align the cog roughly onto the cog here. So soon, you can kind of hear. So I'm just going to push that forward. I'll just go back here. That's looking pretty good. And then one thing, I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure onto the actual rear derailleur and kind of move it over here, just checking to see if that high limit is fine. Everything's looking good. Chain's not falling onto the frame, so that's really all you need to know about adjusting the high limit.
What about when you're riding along and your chain skips? How do you fix that?
So that would be the barrel adjuster. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust this out, put it out of tune here. So I'm just going to shift up. Well, you can actually see it just went a little bit too much on the adjustment there. So one thing you're going to hear is that skipping. So if you're to be riding and having this skip here, obviously something's not properly adjusted. If I'm going to shift a gear, it's just not quite aligned. So I'm just going to shift up a gear, and then you can see I actually shifted up 2. Okay. And then it's kind of hopping around here. So that is just because it's just the barrel's not properly aligned. So what we're going to do is, we're just going to shift it up into another gear here. What you're going to notice is when I'm adjusting this barrel adjuster, I'm hearing that tick, 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 and then it shifts up. So I'm just going to adjust this down, give it a couple more clicks. I'm just going to see, and then you've got to adjust it down again. So you're really just trying to center the actual chain onto the cogs here. You can see how much adjustment the barrel adjuster has. So I adjusted down, so to the right it went to here, and then when I adjusted to the left, so counterclockwise, it went up to the cog there. So really your main goal is to make sure that everything is aligned where it needs to be. So when you are shifting the gears, that it's just going up and down. So it's not exactly going up and down nicely, so we're just going to adjust it down here. and then just keep playing with the gears. And then that's looking pretty good. And then just for argument's sake, you know, just give this a couple more adjustments, and then it should be still fine. So the barrel, it does have quite a bit of adjustments. Doesn't have to be as precise as people think. A lot of people think that the rear derailleur is a daunting task or very hard to adjust. Very easily adjusted, and you know, there is quite a bit of play to the actual rear derailleur, so you don't have to get it perfect. As long as the rear derailleur is roughly aligned onto the cassette there, then we should be fine. So with the low limit, what you're going to want to check is just to see where the low limit and if it actually works. So what the low limit does is it prevents your chain from falling off onto your wheel. Probably one of the more important limits on your bike, just because sometimes wheels are fairly expensive. As well as if it does fall off onto your wheel, then you have to get off the bike, pull it out. So you can see this little plastic thing right here. It's kind of a chain catcher. So what this does is it prevents the chain from falling off onto your wheel set here. The only downside to it is if the chain sometimes goes in between the last cog and then the piece of plastic here, and then you have to take off your rear cassette to get the chain out.
And not all bikes have that catcher, does it?
No. A lot of people take this off just because of that problem of it. Also, you can hear that little bit of rub there. So a lot of guys take it off just because it does rub on the chain in this top gear here. As well as if the chain were to fall in between, then you know, you're going to run into a few problems there. So a lot of people take it off. Personally, myself, I would take it off as well. So one thing you're noticing right now is we're hitting something. So the rear derailleur itself is actually hitting the spoke here. So what that is telling me is we don't have enough low limit. So again, just with the screwdriver, you're just going to adjust it there. Just a little bit of a turn. So when I'm pushing against the rear derailleur like that I'm not hitting anything or interfering with anything there. That's really all there is to it. The nice thing about the low limit as well as the high limit is once they're adjusted, then you don't really have to adjust them ever again, but it's one of the things that you should double check once in a while. You know, just run through the gears here, give a little bit of pressure there, and just push it up there and just see if your limits are fine. Just making sure that you're protecting your investment.